Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Today is December 16th, 2014, and we're here for the meeting of the Village Board of the Village of Vernon Hills. I need a call to order and a roll call, please.
Trustee Schwartz?
Here.
Trustee Williams?
Here.
Trustee Hebden?
Here.
Trustee Schultz?
Here.
Trustee Marquardt?
Here.
Trustee Cook? President Byrne?
Mr. Clerk, I would like to make a motion at this time to have Trustee Williams act as President Pro Tem for the duration of this meeting.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you.
Being informed, would everybody stand and join me in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Excuse me. Last time I did this, I sat over there and I couldn't see.
There we go. Here.
Okay. First item on the agenda is there any citizens that wish to address the board this evening? Nobody? Okay. Thank you for coming, though. At least we feel like we're not so lonely that way. First off, I have a proclamation, an appreciation of 30 years of service to one of our police department members, Pam Cummings, for records supervisor over there. It says, whereas Pam Cummings was hired as clerk typist on June 5th, 1984, and whereas Pam's position was reclassified to records clerk in 1985, and whereas during her 30 years with Vernon Hills, Pam has worked as records clerk, evidence, property, custodian, telecommunicator, records commissions, supervisor, and records supervisor. And whereas in 2005, Pam aided in an investigation that led to the recovery of $100,000 in stolen property. And whereas in the late 1980s, early 1990s, Pam Cummings' name was well recognized in motorcycle drag racing and rated number 2 in the country for gas bike drag racing. Pam has also retired from racing. And whereas Pam will retire as records clerk on January the 2nd, 2015, and whereas Pam plans to enjoy fishing, snowmobiling, and her property in northern Wisconsin and traveling throughout the country. Now therefore be it proclaimed that Roger L. Byrne, President and Board of Trustees, do hereby express our sincere appreciation to Pam Cummings for her 30 years of dedicated service to the Village of Vernon Hills and wish her well in her retirement, dated the 16th day of December 2014. I wish that Pam could have been here, and I know she couldn't, but would you please pass along not only the board's and the village's best wishes to her, but my personal best wishes to her. I've known Pam a long time. This is great. Good for her. I have to laugh when I see that part about the motorcycle. That's so cute. All right, next item on the agenda, Finance Director Treasurer, presentation of the Vernon Hills Police Commission Pension Fund. That's a lot to say, Larry. We'll just let you do your thing. How's that?
Okay. First, you have in the packet the actuarial valuation report. And what I wanted a couple things I wanted to point out about that. One is the overall contribution calculated by the private actuary is up 7.7% from last year. 5.9% of that is from recognition of a assumption error that was corrected. Basically, going back in 2000, a new pension law went into effect that changed when police officers maxed out from to 75% of base from 35 years to 30 years. And there are only really a handful of pension funds in the state who kind of looked at that change and addressed it realistically. And whereas previously the range of assumed retirement ages was 50 to 62, we adjusted it downward to 50 to 57, so that the final retirement age would be 57. We continued that assumption, and then basically 3 years ago, when the new state law came, the actuary had to do a lot of calculations or really had to change his model to adjust for the new state requirements. And in the process of what was really a massive revamping of his system, he forgot about Vernon Hills being I guess you'd say, the one realist in the group. And so for the last 3 years, we were back to age 62, and this was inadvertent. And this year, we're going back to age 57. So but to put things in perspective, in the 4 years since basically it was 4 years ago, we were last at age 57. During that time, our average increase has been 5.7%. That occurred during a period where we lowered our investment assumption from a more aggressive 6.5% to 6%, and we've switched from the 1971 mortality table to the 2000 mortality table, and we're about as well funded as we were then percentage-wise, using a lot more conservative assumptions. That we extended the amortization period is 4 years longer than it was at that time, but that facilitated the changes. The other thing I want to point out is we are a leader in terms of the conservativeness of our investment assumptions, 6%. Over the past 5 years, we've averaged a return of 9.87%, and over 10 years, 6.8%. So I guess the issue comes, why are we that conservative? Well, by having a more conservative investment assumption, and the new smoothing that's basically required, we have been able over the last 3 years to have almost a $1.5 million surplus of market value versus the actuarial value of our assets. And that's protection against a down market. So, at this point, if we have a crash, at least the first 1.5 million is from past earnings that haven't been applied yet. So, and hopefully we can continue to build that using our conservative assumptions. So that's why I think it is important to maintain that conservative assumption. And basically, with 27 years left for the amortization, what we have to do is improve our funding by 1.2% a year. We're currently at 68.3% funding, but again, we're not using the full benefit market value. If we use a more aggressive investment assumption, we'd have a higher funding ratio. By comparison, we also get a actuarial report from the Department of Insurance. They use a 6.75% rate of return and assumption. They assume age 62 as the final age of retirement. They use a less conservative actuarial method, the projected unit credit cost method, and they only aim for 90% funding as opposed to our goal of 100% funding. And they are showing us at I think it was 80% funded. And I think if we had used a market value, that would be 82.5% funded. So I guess what I'm kind of emphasizing is we use very conservative assumptions, and that's costing us more in the short run, but that's going to save us a lot in the long run. So I think we're making a very good choice at this time.
Okay.
And let me see. I'm presenting the House Bill 5088 report, which basically reiterates most of the points that I just mentioned, and talks about our funding levels and and our actuarial requirements and our assumptions. Any questions or comments on what I've
Trustee Schultz?
discussed?
The one question I've got concerns the inflation rate that the pensioner receives. Are they using a blanket rate, or are they using a COLA that's established by the feds?
Well, what they're using, the salary assumption is 4.75%, which is not just the COLA, but it's step increases.
That's for that, but I'm talking on the payout side.
On the payout side, the payout side is set by statute.
And what is that?
Oh, I'm sorry, that's 3% compounded for tier 1, and then 3% non-compounded for tier 2.
Yeah. And that's really the thing that at some juncture the legislature needs to deal with, because the 3% in a marketplace over the last, 5 years has been 1.25% tops. So, but on the other hand, as Larry has done, you've been yielding 6.25%, 6.5%, 6.75% over the short term over the last few years. So we're staying ahead of it, but that is another thing besides placebo legislation that definitely needs addressing by the legislature.
But I believe we are far, far, far better ahead than
Oh, absolutely we are.
a lot of people.
Yes.
Yeah, what's the one Roger always keeps asking about, Evanston?
Yeah, Evanston.
What are they, about 14, 15% funded?
You know, I haven't looked in a while, but I understand one of the reasons why I have to present the House Bill 5088, which is the second part of my presentation today, is because of the city of Evanston and their
Inability to meet their obligations.
their inability to explore their lack of transparency with their village board, with their city board, city council.
Thank you, Larry.
Okay, thank you, Larry, for that part. Next.
That's all I have for tonight.
Okay. Next on the agenda is Public Works Director, Dave.
Thank you very much. I wanted to share a public service bulletin from Swelco. Unfortunately, Swelco will need to temporarily close all residential electronic collection locations. That will also impact the village of Vernon Hills. What was a revenue stream for Swelco, the electronics recycling, for instance, we just received a third quarter check for $458. We receive a third, Swelco would receive 2/3, so they, basically they're getting $900 in that quarter from our collections. So this revenue stream is no longer available. Effective December 18th, all of the electronic sites will be shut down. They do not have a vendor that will collect this quantity of electronics and export it. So we have to close our operations because we have nowhere to get rid of it. You can't take it to a landfill, and there's not a vendor that can handle, we've got roughly 3.9 million pounds of electronics were collected within Lake County in 2013. So we have to find a solution to this. At this point, Swelco's board is meeting on Thursday. They're trying to come up with some solutions. The best solution that they found up to this point, instead of it being a revenue stream, it would actually be a debt. And the best vendor that they found up to this point would charge Swelco $200,000 a year to do this program. So they're looking at different options, trying to figure out how to mitigate impacts. And they will be continuing to put out press releases, keeping the 40 different communities that represent Swelco advised of their progress. But that's where we're at now. So in the interim, Swelco will post alternate electronic potential options on their website. So you can go to swelco.org and that will help you find how you can get rid of your electronics. We're closing our doors, but we hope that they find a solution, and once they do, we're a willing partner and we will have our operations continue. In the newspaper, they posted the Swelco Public Service Bulletin saying Thursday, December 18th is when it was closing. We didn't know when they were going to do it, and we wanted to get the word out as soon as possible so people would come over to Public Works and drop off their electronics. So we posted December 16th. Because some people might have read the newspaper and think that they still can drop it off till December 18th, we will have a soft closing. We will still accept it for a couple more days because we will still have the containers. They won't pick those up until December 23rd. So we will still accept them till December 18th. So anyone who has electronics wants to stop by, still today, tomorrow, please do so, and we'll get rid of that material in this short window.
Great. Okay, thanks, Dave. Next item on the agenda is the omnibus vote. Is there a motion to approve A through K?
Motion to approve.
The motion and a second. Any comments or questions? Can we have a roll call, please?
President Pro Tem Williams?
Aye.
Trustee Hebda?
Aye.
Trustee Schultz?
Reluctantly, aye.
Trustee Markwart?
Aye.
Trustee Cook? Trustee Schwartz?
Aye. Motion carries. Next item under unfinished additional business. Item A, approval of Kemper voucher list of bills dated December 16th, 2014, in the amount of $12,717.58. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Hebda?
Aye.
Trustee Schultz?
Aye.
Trustee Markwart?
Aye.
Trustee Cook? Trustee Schwartz?
Abstain.
President Pro Tem Williams?
Aye. Motion carries. Under new business, item A, approval and passage of resolution 2014-184, a resolution authorizing approval of entertainment contracts for 2015 summer celebration. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
A second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Markwart?
Aye.
Trustee Cook? Trustee Schwartz?
Aye.
President Pro Tem Williams?
Aye.
Trustee Hebda?
Aye.
Trustee Schultz?
Aye.
Is there any other business to come before the board?
We forgot the
Minutes.
approval of village board,
Minutes.
You skipped past the board minutes.
December 16th.
Oh, I'm sorry, I missed that one, didn't I? Approval of the minutes, thank you, of the village board meetings dated December 16th, 2014.
December 2nd.
Second, I'm sorry, second,
It is the second.
yes.
In case anybody's wondering why I'm having problems, I did break my glasses. These are an old set.
Motion to approve.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Is there anything else to come before the board this evening? There being none, is there a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Board's adjourned. Let's move right into Committee of the Whole. Do we need a roll call, I guess? Officially?
Trustee Schwartz?
Here.
Trustee Williams?
Aye.
Trustee Hebda?
Here.
Trustee Schultz?
Here.
Trustee Markwart?
Here.
Trustee Cook?
Okay, there's a
President
quorum.
Byrne?
Is there a quorum? There is a quorum, so approve. Next item on the agenda is approval of Committee of the Whole meeting of December 2nd, 2014.
Motion to approve.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Minutes are approved. Next item is consideration of report from the P&Z Commission regarding Deerpath Parking, AVM Carey and BC Atkinson. Both of you are going to make a presentation, I guess. you know, really, we all got the report. It was a tie 3-3 with one abstention. My recommendation would be just to leave it alone and let people want to come in and apply for a variance, let them do so, but I'm certainly not interested. Trustee Hebda?
Well, I guess since nobody really came to that meeting and requested anything about it, I guess I'm in agreement with Trustee Williams that we just do it on a case-by-case basis, because it would seem to me that if this was an issue, that people would have come forward to talk about it, and I don't know, unless people have moved and things have changed, I just don't feel like we need to add any more paperwork to the process and do it
I would agree with that.
individually.
But would we still want to make that special district so that it's only pursuant to that? That would be on a case-by-case? Otherwise, everybody in Deerpath could think that they could add on also, and we would be saying no? Or would that not
It
matter?
comes to a vote.
If the board left everything as it is right now, then they would, all the properties, not only in this district that's shown on the map in front of you, but anywhere in the village could apply for a variation. The thought is, though, that for this part of Deerpath that does not allow daytime parking, these properties would probably have an easier time proving a hardship, which is what is needed
Than the others.
to get a variation approved. So if you did nothing, then they'd still be able to apply for a variation.
Right, as it stands now, anybody can still come in.
Yeah, I
It's
think
not
that's the
restricting.
process,
But it's
yeah.
on an
The
individual
existing
basis.
ordinance is not restricting anyone. It's always, yeah, it's just like anything else. You want to put up a 12-foot fence, you come and apply for it.
Yeah,
Probably
that's
not going to
correct.
get it, but you can apply for it. Okay, so do we need a motion? Oh, Trustee Schultz?
I'd like to make one more mailing to all the addresses, just to advise them that, look, you know, we brought this up. We feel that there is a process in place. I don't know how to weasel word it, but, you know, that the board has given direction to staff in that we are relatively comfortable with those people in Deerpath applying and receiving an expedited hearing, not necessarily expedited approval, but an expedited hearing of their variation request. And if in fact you feel you have a problem, please take us up on our process here for a variation. Just one more mailing to all those addresses, and then I'll let this be the sleeping dog lying.
I don't know
How did
if we
this
can do
start,
that.
though? Did
Can we?
somebody ask for a
Yes,
variance?
it started basically 2 years ago during the campaign cycle. Roger and I were out and about, and we were working Deerpath quite heavily, looking for locations for signage. And as a result, we got some queries from the residents there, especially those that had the what I'll call as a raised ranch that is close to the curb line or close to the sidewalk line. So,
Well, I think what we'll do is, we'll put together a letter, we'll throw it in the transmittal packet for your review, and if you think it's okay, then we'll make a mailing sometime after the holidays.
yeah.
You know.
And it
I'm
maybe,
just a little concerned about putting out a letter that says that we're saying, I'm sorry, but basically we were going to tell them that you're going to get it approved.
no, we're
we
going to
don't
give them
do
an
that.
expedited, right, we're going to give them an expedited review of
Hearing,
it.
he
Well,
said.
I think what we'll do is advise them of the process.
Right.
Of the information that they'll need to go through with
Yeah.
this, and the contact person by which they will work through it and the
Yep.
like, and kind of, just tell them what it's all about. It's a follow-up letter to the previous letter that they received in advance of the public hearing note.
Yep.
So,
And you might also want to reiterate the fact that they're allowed, what is it, 10 by 8? What did we say, storage building? Well, how big a storage building can you put up?
120 square feet.
Okay, 10 by 12. We have feedback. Thank you.
Wasn't me, I didn't move for a change. Okay,
we'll get it out to you.
okay. Everybody agree with that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Next item is Port Clinton Road recreational path. Dave, I guess you're telling us.
Thank you. Staff has met with Vernon Township, Lincolnshire, and Stevenson High School. There's a proposal in terms of a bike path extension. Mr. Stortle's going to put a map up to assist with the visual part. While he's doing that, I'll give you some background. Essentially, Stevenson High School, they're on a different calendar year budget. So what they would like to do is they're looking to gauge whether or not our village would participate with this project. The overall project cost is $146,500. The request for our village would be $17,750. 12% of the project. The request for the improvements within Vernon Hills, as you look at the map, you can see where the Indian Creek crosses the red line representing the path extension. It starts on the west side and it extends through across the bridge of Indian Creek. The bridge of Indian Creek, the west half of it is in Lincolnshire. The east half is maintained by our village. As you extend east of the bridge, that connects into Caroline Court, which is within our village. Our village board, as part of the TIF project, authorized and approved the extension and improvements of a PED signal so people are safely able to make it across Route 45. So what needs to happen within our village is really a 5-foot sidewalk or path extension from the bridge going easterly, some striping across Caroline Court, depressing the curb to tie it in so it meets ADA standards. In terms of the bridge, we looked at the dimensions, or more importantly, Erickson Engineering looked at the bridge itself, and it does have sufficient width that would allow for an approved ADA crossing in terms of the width. What it does have is it just has a guardrail, so we need to make sure that it has a higher guardrail, so they would add a top rail. So that's where we come up with the cost, 50% for the bridge rail, half of it being in Lincolnshire, half of it being in our village, and the sidewalk extension going easterly. So I really wanted to present this to the village board because I have a meeting Thursday, and they just really wanted to gauge whether or not our village would participate with this. The request is Stevenson High School students want to go to our TIF area, and this is a pathway to get them out of the roadway. So I open that up to the board.
What was that cost again, our share?
Ours would be $17,750.
And the overall cost was?
And the overall cost was $146,500.
And I understand Lincolnshire and some of the other.
Yes, so
Also joining in.
depending whose jurisdiction it is, they would pay for that. I would advise that Vernon Township, Brian Schroeder, has stepped forward and he said
Right.
the guardrail that needs to be improved across adjacent to the bridge, he would step forward and the township would pick up that extra cost, even if it's in our village.
Very nice, very nice. Well, I think it's probably a worthwhile thing.
It definitely would.
And it certainly would enhance the safety, to say the least, of the students from Stevenson going in there. And even some of the, people just wanting to go for a walk in that general area would be great. I certainly would recommend that. Is there comments or questions or motion?
I would recommend it too, only if it's a safety aspect, and to be honest, the path area where it starts from, even to the fact for them to travel, the paths that go down to actually to the river go on for miles.
Yes.
So this is well worth it.
Motion to direct staff to enter into a intergovernmental agreement for the purpose of making the proposed Port Clinton Road improvements at a cost not to exceed I'll make it 18,000.
I appreciate that.
$250 to
Mike
take
made a
somebody out
motion.
to
You're
lunch.
Seconding it?
No,
Mike made a-
no, he did. I just
Okay,
recommended,
changed
so.
his mind. Okay. So there's a
And I'll
motion, is there a second?
And I'll second.
Okay, can we have a roll call, please?
Trustee Schultz?
Aye.
Trustee Markwart?
Aye.
Trustee Cook? Trustee Schwartz?
Aye.
Trustee Williams?
Aye.
Trustee Hebda?
Aye.
President Byrne?
Thank you.
Any oth- Motion carries. Is there any other business coming before the committee this evening?
Is there a
We do
closed
not.
session?
We do not.
No. I knew that. That part I knew. Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
So made.
Second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Good evening.
I thought we stayed a little
Take care,
longer.
everybody.
This may be a record.
That's right.
2000